my first question is, I would just love to hear your story. So anything you'd like to share in regards to, growing your childhood, growing up. Did you grow up in a Vedic society? What messages did you receive as a female growing up in India, and just anything you'd like to share?
Yes, grew up in an Orthodox family, very devout, full of prayers, rituals, chants every day, and didn't think much of it because it was all from the standpoint of the child. New clothes, good food, friends, that's what every festival is all about. Until I think I had my first wake up call when I was 8, and the family took the 8-year-old to see the Shankaracharya, one of them anyway, from the Sringeri establishment, from the Sringeri Pitha. And it was not the reigning one now, but I think it was his predecessor who was still alive. And everybody was, thronging to see him in line. And it was explained to me that he's a very, very big holy saint. And he has the power to grant prayers and blessings. And it's a very special thing that we are going to go see him. So I was very excited. I said, oh, this is wonderful. And then what happened was that I saw the people ahead of me catch hold of his feet and put their head on his feet. And then I too did the same thing. And the whole thing, there was a huge outcry. And I was actually scared because I was startled. There was so much reaction. And I was 7 or 8 years old. And I said, what's happening? And the parents were wishing that I was somebody else's child, and it was just such a what should I say, such a taboo. Like I had breached, later on I understood I had breached a taboo of women not touching him ever. And so that is and then I didn't know what this was all about. I said, he's a holy man and I wanted his blessings. That's what I was standing there. And everybody else in the line were looking at me like, now he has to go take a bath to wash you off, basically. And it made no sense to me at that time. But he was an enlightened person. And he just made the crowd chill out. And he said that, she's just a child. She didn't do this on purpose. She's just a child. Let it go. And he talked very sweetly to me and tried to remove the fear that was there in the heart. And I think that was my first introduction to my gender, basically, within the context of the religion. I mean, otherwise I knew I was a girl and girls like this and boys like that. That was not an issue so much. But then, so what does it mean to do gender within the context of the tradition was brought home with me. And then I think I became a little more careful and a little more, like I would just stand back and observe. Whereas I think as a children's tendency is to just go forth and be spontaneous.
Yeah, dive in.
Yeah, so that is, I think that is a useful memory to share in terms of your dissertation and everything. So so that's what I would like to share.
Oh my gosh. No, that's thank you. So my follow-up question that I had placed is, growing up in Hindu society, what would you say are the ways that Hinduism has empowered women, and what ways has it disempowered women? Is there anything you'd like to share in that regard?
Yes, I think, the Hindu tradition is a very wonderful tradition to grow in as a woman. First of all, we have goddess worship, very rare in the organized traditions. In the mainstream religions, God is always male, even though even though it's formless, but it's a he. They are convinced, and they will not entertain in the orthodoxy, that it could be a she. And this is what happened. There was
Yes.
one interfaith conference I went to with all the big wigs and this imam and somebody and some Russian Orthodox, their hats. You can tell from the size of their hats and the hair, whatever things, how important they are. And here I was with my teacher, and we were sitting in a circle, and then we had to come up with some resolutions to show to the press and after the conference to release these resolutions. So one thing, my teacher proposed is, we can say that, I mean, it was very innocuous. We can say that some people invoke God as he, while some others invoke God as she. That can be the first, whatever. They had a conniption. And I've never seen so many people so bent out of shape all at once. And, and they were all just very upset. And then so we could not even go there, even as a possibility, even to affirm what was already happening. And so this is a very big thing, that God looks like me, and that's wonderful. There is role model, there is affirmation, there is a connection. And so this is something which is, I think, the most empowering thing for the Hindu woman growing up in the tradition. And so this is something which is the other thing also is that there is a certain kind of a personal space that one can take. One can, what should I say, wrap oneself in the shawl of the tradition, and it becomes a boundary, a healthy boundary. You stay over there. This is me time. Me time is goddess time. Me time is God time. It's japa time. I'm doing meditation. Don't come anywhere near me. So and that has to be respected by all. And so there is space. And I have seen with all the elder women in my family, grandmother, aunts, everybody, and if they are praying, nobody can come and ask anything. At the peril of getting bad karma, you go and disturb somebody in prayer. So that's something which is very, very nice. That's the second thing which is extremely empowering. And the third thing which is very empowering, and this is from my own experience and those of others, is that there is quite a bit of leeway for redefining one's the redefining or reinterpreting some of the ways in which things are done. So in the middle of the ritual, in the suppose the ritual says, wear wet clothes and do this, then the woman can just say, that's nonsense, it's the middle of the winter and I don't want to feel uncomfortable, I'm not going to do this. And so there's always substitutes, and so you can substitute this, and you can like the woman may have some wet clothes and put it on the chair, wrap the chair in it, but she will sit on the floor in nice dry clothes. And so that is some ways in which there is a lot of freedom. It is also disempowering, not because of the religion per se, I don't think, but because of the ways in which it has been interpreted through the patriarchal gaze. So we have, for example, certain kind of layering of texts. We have the primary texts called the Upanishads, and then in that is included the Bhagavad Gita, because it just clones the Upanishad in a very simple way. And then we have other secondary texts, and then we have also the first portion of the Veda, which is again a primary text, but that is not accessible to everybody. So the secondary texts are what are called sutras, and the sutras are aphorisms through which the Veda is interpreted. And there are some sutras like Apastamba Sutra, Gautama Sutra, etc., etc., and they were all written by men with complexes, men with issues, men with nothing better to do. And so they they had they made all these rooms because they were just thinking about the main thing. I mean, I have studied these sutras, very interesting. I think you can Dharma Shastra it's called. And so in the Dharma
Mhm.
Shastras, they had one and only a singular focus. The focus was to keep the status quo, especially with regard to the division of labor in the society. And they very quickly understood something, that if women start to pray some of these, very holy and high powered chants that are designed to give vairagya, dispassion, they may just go off to the Himalayas and become sannyasis. And so, and who will cook? Who will clean? Who will give birth? Who will take care?
Mhm.
So this was, from their standpoint, a very, very practical, uh, what should I
Mhm.
say, a very, very practical thing, that some curbs should be put, even though the Upanishad does not say women should not chant this. So three things happened because of these stupid interpretations. So the first thing that happened was an entire Veda, and the Vedas are four in number, and the Sama Veda, an entire Veda that was upkept by women. Women used to maintain it, women used to chant it, women used to sing it. That was wrested from the hands of women and given to men. And as though that was not enough,
Mhm.
women will not chant the Vedas. It was like an edict in all the sutras. And then women should not chant the Sri Rudram, a very holy um, chant, which makes you think about toxicity and toxic people in your life and dropping them, dysfunctional things and things
Mhm.
that do not serve you and dropping them, and all these things, and
Mhm.
which makes you very, very self aware, radiant, and resplendent in your own glory. Women should not chant that.
Mhm.
Women should not chant Gayatri mantra, the first mantra that's given to men and to boys and girls. Before it was given to boys and girls, and even the most rigid interpreter Manu of the Manu Smriti fame, even he said
Mhm.
the girls are entitled to wear the sacred thread and to chant the Gayatri. In fact, they should be given the Gayatri, but somehow
Wow.
it was disregarded, and the Gayatri would
Mhm.
lead to lot of other problems, because the Gayatri means one is getting initiated in the study of the Veda. And so what if you don't initiate women at all? So then you don't have to you don't have to worry about them chanting the Veda. Then the final thing the women could not chant was Om. Om again makes one really go deep within oneself. And we can't have women doing that. I mean, we need them to cook, clean, and take care of the household.
Wow.
Oh.
That's so interesting, the background you share on that. After reach, it's not, none of what you've said I have read anywhere. Even though there is information out there that, argues different positions on both sides, but that's so rich. It's fascinating.
All
Um,
Guru's grace. That's all.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yes. So, can you share with me a little bit about your journey coming into the study of the Vedas yourself, and of course, the study of Vedanta and
Yes. It's like what's that? It's like a natural outcome of two things. One is just growing up in a family where one was surrounded by that. So there is a lot of natural curiosity. What is all this about? And the second thing, the reason that brought me to this was, as a professor,
Mm,
I was having so many students during the office hours. This was in a previous life before the ordination. And I
mm,
was having, lines of students. And it was not really, because of me or I was great or something like that. I just took it as there is is a lot of need. There is a lot of desperation. People really want to know how to lead their lives, and this is. And then when they came to see me, it wasn't questions about assignments and what to write in this paper, or I need an extension on that. No, it was more like, I'm breaking up with my partner of 3 years. How do I go? Why did this happen? How can I go forward in life? Or I'm having issues with my primary people, the parents, and what to do with that, or something like this. It was my friends or my life. It was all about relationships. And then, what is the purpose of my life? And one young man came and said, please give me at least one reason why I should continue to live before you call the ambulance and all the counselors and everything. And so then one thing was very clear, that here was, I felt helplessly inadequate to address these needs and these situations. I mean, I knew some things, and I was being older. I mean, they were all 19, 20, and I was much older as their professor, and so I could offer something from experience, but it felt very shallow. Especially when people are asking me the meaning of life and what is the purpose of life. I said, I better find out before I share with them.
Yeah.
Before I share with them. And so then that led me to meeting my teacher, and I met one of his disciples first, who had come to give a talk. And so I was, I wanted to record her just like you are recording me now. And I wanted to hear what she had to say and everything like that. I was actually doing it for a magazine that I was that I was a collective. I was having a women healers collective, and so for this magazine I wanted like a lead interview, and so I went to see her. And a very interesting, my friend was going to do the video and I was going to ask the questions, so we both went to see her. But then a very strange thing happened. Loaded up the car and and then she forgot something, or she needed to use the bathroom, so we came back in. And then it was all of 2 minutes, and I picked up some student papers, thinking I will how it is, we always think we have more time and we'll do some papers somewhere. And that's a myth, that's an illusion. So that is like the academic Maya. It's academia. So
Oh my goodness. Yes.
So then I came in to get some student papers, and she came in to use the bathroom. We were gone literally for 2 minutes. And then somebody broke into the car, stole all the equipment and everything. And so I found myself calling this lady who was a disciple of my teacher. She's very famous. Actually, she's an Ayurvedic healer. Her name is Maya Tiwari. Fantastic person. And is very erudite and has written on numerous things on Ayurveda. And like the intersection between Ayurveda, reclaiming your power as women, and Vedanta. She has really done a lot of cutting edge work.
Oh, Maya Tiwari.
Yes.
Oh, yes. I actually did spend a week with her way back.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. Yes. I just didn't recognize the name at first.
So,
yes.
Anyway, so I just said, all right, this is something big is about to happen. I felt, because this was like a big thing. No, this doesn't happen every day. And so I said, everything has been taken away. The wallet is gone. So that's something about identity and everything. And so my friend, who was more practical of the two of us, so she called all the companies and everything, and she called Maya and said, this is what has happened. Because Maya said, I only have half an hour to meet with you. But she said, Maya said she'd had a dream, and that something like this would happen, and she was guided to leave the whole morning open. So then I went over there, And then I started to ask, we went over there, I started to ask questions. And when the topic came of the teacher, I somehow stopped the line of inquiry and only wanted to ask about the teacher. And that was it. The very next day, I packed 2 suitcases and went to India, and and met the teacher. And so
Wow.
that is how the journey started.
Wow. That's such amazing story,
Yes,
just to have certain events occur that sort of made it very memorable and important, knowing like, oh, something big's about to happen,
yes,
as you
because
said.
everything is being taken away, so it must be something really big. Yeah, and so it's life as before. The whole identity it prophesied a shift in how one identifies with oneself. With regards to the little pieces of plastic that come in the wallet, and this is who you are, and this is all that. And so the wallet may not change, but cognitively everything has changed.
Oh my goodness. And so what let me look what I have here. But so I'm just curious then, once you met Puja
Yes,
Swamiji and you started studying with
yeah.
him, was there anything unique about the way he related to female students that kind of struck you as important? Or
Yes, I mean he was just he was like a mother. I can't even say he was like a father. He was both father and
mm,
mother, and he was just like a mother. And he was soft, and I learned a lot from him about relating to women and what are some of the pedagogical tools that
mm,
he would use. Like in one instance, I was very close to him because I traveled with him for 7 years, yeah, all over the
mm,
world, in the length and breadth of India, and all over the world. And I spent a lot of time with him. I used to take dictation of the letters he wanted to write. I used to read to him every evening on when he walked on the treadmill. And so this was so I had a lot of chances. He kind of really took me in under his wing, and it was very, very clear that I was an apprentice, and I had to just watch. And even sometimes people came to have closed door talks. As the door was about to close, he would go like this, "Come in and take a seat." And I was privy to many things. And then on one occasion,
mm.
and this is nothing private, this happened in public. One occasion, one person derided somebody as one woman, derided somebody as a man and a woman, a couple, derided a student, a co-student of mine who, for something, some omission or something she hadn't done, and everything like that. And then Pujya Swamiji, the guru, he just got very silent. He listened to the whole thing, and then he said, women are sensitive about being blamed. He said, everybody is sensitive, but especially we have to be very sensitive about women being criticized and blamed. And you will have a lot more luck if you rephrase what you have to say constructively, without targeting
Wow.
and without knowing why she might have
Mhm.
done something. And then I have also heard him say that a woman has to go to her in-laws' house in the patriarchal culture is a travesty, because here is one woman who has to get adjusted to so many egos. And so
Mhm.
she had a surname, and now she has to drop that name and take on the husband's name in a traditional thing. And so this is
Mhm.
something which is which is very difficult. And he would say women make a lot of sacrifices for society and the family. And then the
Mhm.
final cherry on top came when I asked him the question. I said, Swamiji, you have gone everywhere. You know so many jnanis, people of self knowledge who are enlightened. where are they? I said, where do you find them? Are they in the hills? Are they in the cities? Where are they? And then he thought about it, and then he said, they are in I see the knowledge of the self more often than not shining in the elderly housewives. And he said, I may not even have met them that much. And I go to their house I'm invited to lunch, and the man of the house is sitting right next to me and eating his lunch also and keeping on talking. And he went like this, blabbing something or the other. And and as the woman is serving me, I look into her eyes and she looks into mine. I know she knows, she knows, I know she knows.
Wow.
So there was some good karma that took me to such the feet of such an enlightened master, especially with regard to gender issues. And he sent me to the most conservative conference to represent him. That was some other story. It was something else. Do you want me to go into that? Would that be useful, or should I not?
Yes, I think that would be actually really, really nice. Yeah, to share that
Yeah, this was in
experience.
2007 or 8. It was the Hindu Jewish dialogue, and it was a high level delegation. And I had been working in the background, writing letters and inviting people and everything.
Mhm.
And Swamiji got bronchitis and he was told not to travel, especially on the plane and everything. His lungs were very weak. And he said, you must go. And then, I received a letter from the rabbinate in Israel saying that women should not speak until they are spoken to, and these are the protocols with the rabbis. And this is, if you are coming, you can come, but this is what you cannot talk, you cannot do this, and you have to walk behind them, not in front of them, etc. And as though that was not enough, then I got a letter from the Indian delegation, one of the swamis, who said he cannot look at women at all. His whole life is about avoiding women. So sad, no? And but that is what his whole life is about, avoiding women. And she said, I cannot look at women. Don't have any women come in front of me. So then I called Pujya Swamiji, and poor thing was coughing so much, but still, he found it amusing, and he said, all the more reason you should be there and you should go. So I
Oh.
went and I gave them a wide berth. I just hung around in the back, and then because unless they turned, I did not eat with them. Went, took my food, and then went, and sat at some other table and ate there and everything. And this is how it continued. And it was interesting. The head of the Indian delegation, who was not very well versed in English, came and said, I want you to write me a talk in English so that I can give that talk. So I said, okay. And I said, what do you want to say? He says, oh, figure something out. You say it. I'm sure you'll do a great. And then so it was, there were lots of interesting things happening. The final day,
Wow.
I think perhaps because there was this big delegation or something, it snowed in Jerusalem after 75 years when we were there. And then on that day, they were supposed to take us, to visit the old city and the markets and everything like that. And then, of course, I was in a different car. They went in a bus because, I didn't want, I just gave them a lot of leeway. So I went in a little taxi,
Yeah.
which dropped me off at a designated place. And then the taxi left. And then it was snow everywhere. And here I am looking, I have no idea which little cul-de-sac they have all gone into. I have no idea. The bus has also returned. I could see the tire marks, and I just stood there. I said, this is very, very interesting, and I don't know what to do, and maybe I should just stand here. Guess who came for me, Kathryn? Guess who came for me? The Swami that cannot look at women. He missed me, and he missed, and he came and he said, Mataji, mother, this way, follow me. He
Oh.
came to get me. And so whenever I tell this story, I say sometimes your absence is more powerful than your presence.
Yes. Wow. Wow. I love that. I love hearing that. It's so fascinating because just the, so I went to Coimbatore for 5 weeks on two occasions. And I just always felt safe in Puja Swamiji's
Yes.
presence. I've met, many gurus and teachers and things like that. And I studied my past studying with Carol
Yes,
Whitfield.
yes, yes,
Um,
yes. Radha,
yeah, so
yes.
yes. And so she's been my main teacher. So when I was studying with her, I was like, well, I'm not interested in meeting a man teacher. I was like, I don't need to meet. And then I was listening to her interview him and I heard his voice and I immediately knew that I wanted to meet him. And upon meeting him, I was just so taken by how safe I felt as a woman, just my journey as a woman through life and how he had a very unique presence and just regard for women in the way
Absolutely.
he
Yes.
and that was just so healing in itself because I think to really, kind of take in the knowledge in a deeper way, meeting and Radha was there during that time. So it just deepened my study and experience and so I've always just felt so much gratitude for the knowledge, but also for his unique presence with women.
Absolutely, I agree with you 100%. And also, he transmitted to all of us a very important point is that any kind of slight, and here in this trip, there were many reasons or many ways in which I could have taken offense, but that never happened.
Mm.
Instead, I found myself feeling very sorry for that Swami. Like, what a way to live life, avoiding half the population of the world. So I was feeling more compassion than any kind of a slight or offense. And that was because of the way he taught. And his
Mm.
teachings were just very simple. Nobody at any given time is out to get you. That was what he
Yeah.
really taught. He took away this knowledge, takes away subjectivity, takes away the
Mm.
past hurts and the effect of the past, whatever it is, whatever may have happened with the primary caregivers. Okay, and so whatever baggage one is carrying is all gone in the light of this knowledge, because we start seeing the world as the guru sees the world, and that is the greatest blessing of all, if it is an enlightened guru.
Mm. Yes, I always remember one of the talks, he was talking about forgiveness and not liking the word forgiveness and just about understanding the
Mm-hmm.
background. And that always stuck out as just being such an important part of kind of, his teaching and what you're speaking to. And it's so healing because you kind of then relax, like, oh, okay. Understanding the background's easier than trying to forge
Yeah,
through,
or trying to fix somebody, because that cannot happen. Yeah.
yes, yes, yes. So then as so on that journey, you became a teacher yourself and became, a very eminent teacher. I know you've traveled the world, you have so many students. So is there a pivotal moment in on that journey or anything significant you'd like to share as being a female teacher or so the transition from student to teacher or just as a teacher in a female body that you would like to share?
I don't think of myself as in the female body most of the time. I mean, right now I'm thinking of it because that is the topic of this interview. Yeah, but
Yeah.
I don't really
Yes.
think of myself as in a female body, because the knowledge transcends gender completely. And so I
Mhm.
really don't dwell on how I must be appearing to people, or what I should do to present myself a certain way in order to be more effective or efficacious. I don't find myself
Mm-hmm.
going there at all. I never did. Never did.
Mm.
If anything, it was just the transition is always because, of two things. One is all transitions are difficult and scary,
Yeah.
so it's kind of very nice. It's the same thing, like you go from graduates to school. I mean, it's one thing to be a TA, but then you just become a professor, and that's like, okay, this is the graduate school days is like a, it's like a safety, like a little cloak of safety, and you feel it's you feel complacent, and there is a certain world, and you know how to negotiate that as a student. But then
Mm-hmm.
as a teacher, the parameters shift, and so every transition brings up underconfidence and other issues, generally speaking. And so that is there. And then I think that that was very easily remedied. um, that the teacher, Puja Swamiji, had a way with words and had a way with talking to me that really spoke to me. And then when he said like a one sentence or two sentences, it was gone. And so once I asked him, all these people who come to the classes are much older than I am, and in the Hindu tradition, everyone thinks of themselves as the Pope, and because we don't have a pontiff, everybody pontificates, everybody says something. And so I said, I just don't know what to do. I mean, how do I hold my own? And he said two things. One is, Vedanta holds itself. You don't have to hold it. It'll hold you, it'll hold everybody. And then the second thing he
Mm-hmm.
said, I'll never forget, is that you have to be big like me. He said, think big, be big. And it was more, I think, like a blessing. It was not be big as in, throw your weight around or have a large following. That was not what he was talking about. He was like,
Mm-hmm.
outgrow these things and be big, be expanded, be, make your heart big enough to accommodate a few galaxies. That is what he was talking about, and it made a profound impact on me. And I just
Mm-hmm.
was, I kind of went into a little bit of a trance for a few days. I was transfixed with keeping on dwelling on these words. Be big like me, be bigger than the problems, be bigger than whatever is ailing you. And that really, really helped.
That's powerful. Wow.
Yes.
Just taking all of this in, I appreciate this so much. Just not only for my dissertation, but just on a personal
Yes,
level.
absolutely. You can't
Very,
distinguish it. And that's why I'm so happy with your dissertation.
yes, thank you. It's been a long journey, but it feels more timely now. I feel like there's more ways to, have dialogue with different platforms, and there's more, lectures available, say, for different teachers on YouTube. So that's made it timely. Yeah. Um, so what do you think has led to the growing number of female teachers in Vedanta? And I'm just curious as far as like what you think the biggest catalyst for this is, and maybe how did Puja Swamiji, modernity, and perhaps a growing number of eager female students influence this
Yes, you
shift?
have already answered the question, and all of the above. He was Swamiji was one of the people who ordained women. Many people did not ordain women, and they still do not. There is some kind of a half ordination and all this, but in our tradition, in Arsha Vidya, we don't have that. We have a full ordination, and it is, yes,
Okay.
and it is just so wonderful. And so it is, that really started it, because, and it is a teaching tradition. So it's not that the women are making tea and the men are teaching. The women are also teaching.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think, and also I think the time is right. And there is, when the need arises, it is fulfilled. It is the way, it is the law of the universe, it is the law of Ishvara. And so I think that the prayers of numerous women students perhaps has brought this change, and it is to be celebrated, and the time is right, and everything is, happening.
Yes, yes. It does seem like there's a building of feminine energy. And I think that's one thing that I've also in having interviews with different female teachers is I'm wondering if you've noticed both of your own teaching and the teaching of other female teachers, if there's any notable sort of feminine pedagogy, like way of teaching. And in one of the texts I was studying that was looking back into the Vedas and some of the first female rishikas, it had this idea of females teaching with love and friendliness. And that really struck me because I've witnessed that. And there is an element of relating to people in a very sort of loving, friendly way that seems to be pretty universal, at least in what I've witnessed with female teachers. So is there anything you could speak to on that?
No, because I find that numerous male teachers are also very loving and friendly. So
Yes.
because I think it is not so much about one's gender per se, because I think it is about Vedanta in general. So if you are a carrier of this knowledge of oneself as whole, free and joyous, how can you not be? How can you be anything but loving and friendly? That's what I think.
Yeah.
And but pedagogically, what if there is a female parampara or some kind of a practices or something like that, that would, I think, have to do with again, in the interpretation of the texts. And the text, we have a very rich history of hermeneutics, pun intended. And so and
Yeah.
so and so there, there is a lot of leeway. There is a lot of leeway, and you can look at a story in the Upanishad, and you can
Mm-hmm.
look at men getting themselves into tied up in knots about something in a particular narrative. I'm not recalling it immediately, but maybe some example may come later. And then you can say that, oh, poor things, look at them, and they are having a very hard time. And that itself becomes a very interesting kind of a interjection. And then when studying and when teaching the Kenopanishad, there we have the first female guru of this Vidya.
Mm.
We have the avatara of Haimavati Uma, the goddess who comes as a teacher. This is overlooked. Even Adi Shankara in the commentary doesn't talk about it. He talks about her as a goddess. But then we know in the culture and in the tradition, there is a big divide between worshipping the goddess and then looking at the condition of women. There is a big discrepancy. In most cultures which have goddess worship, the same thing is there. So now we have that very important thing to see it for what it is. Here in the story, Indra, there is one kind of a mysterious being that comes into the room when Indra and the god fire, Agni, and Vayu, um, wind, they are all partying, while forgetting that they are partying because they are celebrating a victory and in a war, while forgetting that the victory was because of the grace of God. They forgot that. And so God decided to come in a form of a yaksha and to just mess with them and to remind them that all their powers they take for granted, like the power of the fire to burn and the power of the wind to blow, is doesn't belong to them but belongs to Ishvara. And so then, that's the first instance of an avatara, and that avatara goes away when Indra goes to talk to this yaksha, this celestial being. And then the celestial being disappears, and Indra sits and meditates, cleanses his heart, and in the same place where the celestial being disappeared, a wonderful golden hued woman, goddess figure, is standing there alive, and she teaches him the Upanishad. How can we miss this? We can't miss this. This is what I would call a women centered pedagogy. When we look at this, I mean, if supposing, let's say that avatara, the second one that came, was in a male body, we would have said, oh yes, it's the teacher. Lord Narayana has come as the teacher, Lord Shiva has come as a teacher, and we do have that Dakshinamurti. But here there is Haimavati Uma. And this is Ma means knowledge. That's what it is. She who is the embodiment of resplendent self-knowledge, as resplendent and self-evident as the self. And here she came to reveal the self in the form of the teacher, and the being that disappeared had to disappear because it was really oneself, and it could not be objectified. And when Indra went and tried to relate to Ishvara as an object, it disappeared. And she tells him all this. And it is just beautiful. And so this is how we have to understand this, and we have to teach it in new ways. We have to write about it in new ways, and then that is when we have a new. It's not really new, but I think we have a women-centered parampara. And Pujya Swamiji has done so much for this, because he would say, well, people will get offended studying the Gita because it is only addressed to men. And let me be the first person to tell you that it is addressed to men. Because it's all in the masculine. Yeah, so he did a lot to carve out a female-centered, women-centered pedagogy of teaching Vedanta. I mean, I have learned so much from him. I am so grateful. And his mind was like the whole cosmos, everything he could hold in it, and everything he could make okay. And even the most disgruntled person, would want to go see him. And even the most hurt person, even the most angry person, he had that the force of the knowledge was such that he could disarm everybody. And that is something, that more than trying to be a woman teacher, that is what is to follow. You just accidentally happen to fall in the woman's body. That's what it is. Yeah, that is not the main thing. It is.
Right. It's interesting though. I've never heard that about the Keno. It was the Keno Upanishad.
Yeah.
I mean, with the research I've done, like I haven't heard that. I haven't studied that particular Upanishad, so I'm excited to go look at that. I just want to see if there. Okay, so one final question that I have: is there anything unique about the way Advaita Vedanta empowers women? So, is there anything about the teaching that uniquely empowers women, say, as compared to other traditions or other teachings?
Absolutely. It empowers all humanity. And how can it not empower women? And here one was thinking that one is a victim of circumstances. One is in the hands of karma, and one has all these responsibilities and all these things, and one is a doer, and one is done in. When one is not a doer, one is done in by other people's doings. And here, this person, whether man or woman, is told, you are free. And you are whole, you are limitless. In fact, you are not you are not existing because of all these circumstances. You are indeed one with the cause. And if anybody is told that, that is just so transformative, completely transformative. And then within the current context of gender dynamics, discrepancy, oppression, internalized oppression, if a person is shown this, imagine, I mean, it is unimaginable. Like one is it becomes a kind of a, to use a cliched term, a kind of a liberation theology, in the sense of not just liberation, moksha as liberation, but also liberation from everything else that is staring at one in the face on an empirical realm. And there is a beautiful saint. I wish to introduce you to. Her name is Bahina Bai, in the 17th century, a bhakti movement saint. And she was a poet, and she was married to an extremely control freak, kind of a narcissist husband. And here she was, all the time attending to him, and on top of that, he was sickly and angry and highly suspicious. Even if she went to pray, he was like, "Who are you with?" He's this kind of a fellow, and a total control freak. And then, she used to give vent to her feelings in poetry, and what beautiful poetry. And some of them have been translated, and one of them I quote: "The Vedas cry out, the Puranas shout, no good may come to a woman. Oh Lord, what am I to do, having been born in this woman's body?" says Bahina. So she refers to herself in the third person, as that was the way they would delegate authorship in their poetry. Says Bahina, what is this? How am I to know the truth? If the Vedas are looking upon me like this, how am I to know the truth? But know the truth she did. And not only that, I mean, when she knew the truth, and when she was free, she studied with the Guru secretly. And when she was free, the husband came around. That is the power of Vedanta. Yeah, and Puja Swamiji used to talk about this freedom in relationship, not freedom from relationship.
Right. Swamini, can you text the name
Yeah,
of the
I
poet?
will send it to
Okay.
you by email.
Okay. Yes, I would love that. I would love that. So then one just short follow-up question, and then I want to honor your time. Would you say then there's so much out there in popular culture? I see a lot of teachers and coaches really trying to help people move through their trauma and their what we'd call maybe attachment patterns in forming more healthy relationships. And would you say that Vedanta is nicely supplemented by those teachings, or would you say Vedanta has enough in itself when properly taught and understood to really heal I would, those wounds, say inner child wounds,
Yes,
so to
yes,
speak. Uh,
yes. I think Vedanta has it. If it is properly assimilated and properly understood, properly taught, it has everything. Because it has the preparation, and the preparation includes, is not averse to therapy. And because that's what is talked about, you share it out, you talk it out. It's not averse to therapy, it's not averse to any other creative form of dealing with trauma. It's not averse to any other thing, yoga, any other ways of expressing self-love, etc., etc. In fact, that is what it teaches. Vedanta is just what's the word for it? It opens the heart it opens the heart to show you the wounds that need to be addressed. And that is a freak out moment for a lot of people. They're like, "Oh, I don't know if I want to look in here." But then you look in there with the help of the Guru, with the help of all the people with whom you are studying. And then the clearing of that happens, and then for that shraddha, devotion, respect is needed. Respect and trust for the knowledge. Vedanta is all about taking that inner child that stopped trusting, and then taking it to finally to trust itself and to trust the whole universe, which is revealed as an extension of itself. So in the interim, it's made to bow down at the altar. The trust that was lost in the primary caregivers is regained in discovering the mother and the father of the universe. And then the next stage in Vedanta is to embrace that mother and father of the universe as the truth of oneself, as Ishvara. Yeah.
Thank you,
Not at
Swamini.
all.
That was
Yes. Whenever you address a female monastic, I would like you to add G at the end, because for the men we do that automatically. So if we are interviewing, yeah, we always say
Swaminiji.
G for all the swamis,
Swamini.
and so we should do the same for female monastics. And this is just a, because you are studying this, I'm telling this. Okay, yeah. So that will be good.
Thank you, Swaminiji.
So
Yeah.
can I get this a copy of this interview?
Yes.
That will be
Yes.
wonderful.
Yes. And yes, so I'll be in touch, and I can send you a copy, and I'll keep you
Yes,
posted
yes,
on the question.
yes. If you can send me the copy, that will be great, because I can share it
Okay.
with some students or whoever might be interested in that. Yes.
Yes, 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 definitely. Okay, well, thank you so much,
Thank you. Yeah,
Swaminiji.
have a blessed day. And I know you are a wonderful student, and you will come out with a breathtaking, path-breaking dissertation. And I wish you good luck with that. And I know you are a wonderful mother, and so good luck with that as well.
Oh, thank you for the blessings, Swaminiji.
Take care. All the best.
Grateful. Okay,
Oh, oh.
you too. Oh.